Hi everyone, welcome to the first of our new videos, I guess we should call them. My name is Dan, I'm one of the members of Project Ice Games and I'm the editor for the channel at the moment. I'm very happy to be joined by Al Johnson. Al is a very good player. It's very common to see him on the competitive scene. We've kind of invited him along today to just talk through a faction and really introduce it, talk through how it works, and explain how potentially to build lists from both the beginner standpoint and also from a competitive angle. The faction that he has chosen to do, or that I told him he had to do, was Minimoto. Mostly because I struggle to play against them. I don't know, Minimoto for me feels like a faction that is quite difficult to manage. I feel like I can do lots of things right in a game and then nothing happens because they're Minimoto, and that's just how it kind of goes. Al has used the ridiculous nature of that to win a couple of Grandmasters tournaments. He's won one Grandmasters tournament with Minimoto, and as such he has designed a model which is on the table in front of us, which we will talk about in detail later on.
This is Minimoto. I've had a number of other factions, but this was the first one I started with. One Grandmasters, which gave us the ability to design a profile, which is the best. What's the catchphrase? The best. Look.
The best what? I think that the profile that Al designed is egregious and terrible and overtuned, and it's all his fault.
All the other records. Basically, no, the best. It's not the best award. It's like the best prize. The best prize in wargaming is being able to create and design your own profile.
You stay in the bears and the sort of like aesthetics drew you to the faction initially. Did they kind of meet your expectations? From my side, they're just this immovable, awful brick object that I can't batter through.
Yeah, pretty much the way they're designed to be. Both aesthetically and mechanically, they represent tougher than average profiles in terms of defense.
Okay.
i.e. they will have just a tiny bit more health than the average kind of human, and quite often they will have more armour than most other factions.
And more armour than they should have, in my opinion as well.
Because they are dead hard. One of the features of Minimoto is that every human and bear model, so far, has 7 wounds. Even their casters.
Right.
Casters.
But as you'll find later on, that does not mean that if you do 7 wounds to them, they die. Yeah.
It usually does, but there's...
Not in one go.
No. There are certain things that they can do to mitigate that. At present, the core of most Minimoto lists has been the samurai. The samurais tend to be the focus of most lists. At least 2 or 3 of the models generally represents about half of them in most lists.
So are they played defensively then, or is it a case that you can do what you like with them? And
well, that's the thing. So you can play them defensively if you so chose. However, because you have armour, because you have health in excess of what would be considered the average or the norm, and you have certain event cards that would allow you to soak disproportionately a lot of damage, it means that you're not obligated to defend as heavily or at all as some other factions.
Yeah,
even some other samurai factions, like the Prefecture, who have quite similar samurais in some ways, and some comparable, and even better in some cases, but not as defensively strong in most cases for the cost. So it means that they can soak a hit and deal out damage, where other factions might have to decide, am I going to have to take a risk and go 50-50 with some of my dice, or am I going to have to go full defense or full attack?
Okay. And so do you think that makes them easier to play? Are they an easy to play faction, or?
They are more forgiving than a lot of factions. A success level 3 hit, for instance, on an Ito model is very likely.
Is a dead model.
It's potentially a dead model. A success level 3 hit on a Minimoto model, the chances of dying are comparatively much lower.
So you can plan for your models to stay around longer, and you can...
They are the tanky faction, and
Yes.
that is kind of reflected in gameplay. The slow tanky faction, which is another of their less good features.
Bad.
Bad features, that's the word.
Bad.
Yes, that's one of their downsides, is the limitations on manoeuvrability and speed. That is one of the things that people possibly don't take into account. Minimoto do not have a lot of features that other models have. In terms of manoeuvrability, extra activations, certain sidestep attack or sidestep defense, for instance.
Yep.
Their speed is always capped to 4.
Okay.
With almost no exceptions. They are, by the way, the slowest faction in the game. Lips back there.
Me or you?
Me.
It's okay. It's fine. We've been lip smacking quite a lot. Not together. But, you know, these microphones, they pick up all the noise, and unfortunately, we're trying to mitigate not only the lip smacking but other sounds as well. So
could have made that sound even worse.
it's staying in. It's staying in the edit. It's definitely
No edits.
It's going to the edit.
No edits.
It definitely is. I guess maybe the place to start would be talking about the samurai. So we're going to break the faction down into various different subgroups just to introduce them all one at a time and explain how they work. Then from there we'll talk through the themes and then we'll build a couple of lists at the end there just so you can maybe try them at home and feedback how you get on with those. So you mentioned samurai. There's a few outliers that give me massive headaches when I play, so maybe we should start with those. The samurai models in the faction.
Okay, yeah, sure. Do you know the samurai faction? Do you know which models cause you undue distress?
All of them. The one that sits down is pretty bad.
Oh,
the
one that'd be the Rio. He's kneeling.
He kneels, sorry, he doesn't sit down.
Yes.
The back's
How disrespectful. He just sits, soaks it, and beats you to death.
He doesn't need to stand up to beat you. That's the thing. You've got it. Oh, they're already at the front.
Yeah, I was like, they're already there.
Him.
Odamu.
Absolute awfulness.
Weapon.
So we'll put them there. We've lined them up.
So we'll start with Odamu first. Odamu, he is hard as nails. He hits hard. He has a good profile in terms of his weapon. It has slow if it damages you. It has reach. He has some good special attacks. And he has a +2 on the damage modifier. So in terms of his special attacks, he has powerful attack, so he can hit at +5, which is obviously nothing to sneeze at. It's very powerful. And push attack, which makes him quite versatile.
4 dice base in melee.
Indeed, yep.
With prowess.
7 health, 4 armour, and he has some other things that make him really strong. He has aware, which is really good. He's got endurance, which also makes him even more tanky because he never loses that dice once he becomes exhausted. And he is just a very strong overall profile. He's not what you describe as an assassin type model who might have like something like feint and combo attack. He is a model that will engage potentially multiple models at a time and beat them both. Because his defensive profile is exceptionally good and he has some excellent abilities to kind of grind people down in terms of key feats. Hoarfrost basically makes a model held and they lose a dice, and from there their defensive profile kind of weakens over time, and he'll basically be able to grind them down, especially if he has someone supporting him who can then exhaust the enemy. And if they become exhausted and they're outnumbered, then further they've got Hoarfrost on them, so they've got -3 dice at that point. He'll hit them at +5 with a powerful attack, and they'll get cut in half.
And Hoarfrost is an instant, and
it is indeed.
So just after the melee's complete, you're held. And there's no restriction, so obviously you can't do it over and over and over, but if you're fighting 2 models, that held token only drops if another model comes in, I believe. Is that right?
That's correct, yeah. So that's kind of one of the traps that he potentially puts people in. So he engages a model, they become held, another model comes in to kind of break that, the Hoarfrost, the held feature. But now he's locked. Now he's fighting 2 models, which he can easily do, especially if he's kind of out with range of other Minimoto models, because then Bear stands alone triggers.
Yep.
So he's not outnumbered, he's not getting exhausted, and he will just grind those models down over time.
And because he's aware, he's not getting surprised either. So
Yes.
there's not a huge amount you can do to mitigate his strengths.
No. And when you do his Bear ability, so Bear's Hide, for instance, once it can either be triggered with Hasty Bear, which is an event card, which you should always have as a Minimoto player, but if he were to be slowly, say he was fighting pretty stiff opposition and he was worn down, when that triggers, it damages the enemy.
Right.
And
Oh yes, 2 wounds ignoring tough. Yeah.
yes, so if he were fighting like a Nito model and they've wounded him, even if he hasn't hit them and that's triggered,
Yep.
he's taking 2 of their 5 hit points off.
Yep.
Quite dangerous, because obviously at that point he will have lost at least 4 health. So there's a good chance he will
Die soon.
die.
After.
But
Although
it could
less
mean
of a
that
chance than if it was a different model.
yes. But say for instance you had hit a model and wounded it, say for 4 damage, but it was still alive, and they'd hit you, damaged you for 1.
Yep.
You can then play Hasty Bear. They then take 2 more damage.
Yep.
And they would die. So he is incredibly tanky, but he doesn't have access to Feint or Brutal. You shouldn't expect him necessarily to kill a model who is going full defence quickly, but he will outgrind almost all opposition.
Okay.
So
So I
very
guess,
few models that will.
so if you're playing against him, then I suppose you might throw one of your models into him with dodge and feint, roll defense for as long as he can, and hold him up with a model that costs potentially a little bit less, and then you're at a net positive.
That would probably be your best bet.
That might be repeated many times in the next 10 minutes as we go through all the other samurai as well. However, that's potentially one thing to do. What I've learned so far is that I should rely on poor dice rolls. And who do we have next?
Next on this one is Yuji. So Yuji is from the starter box set. He is one of the older ones in terms of... Oh, he's missed it. Keep going up.
Yuji doesn't start with a Y?
That's it. They're Minimoto.
Oh, sorry.
You ignorant Westerner here.
Sorry. I forgot Minimoto's. They've all got the same first name. But it's fine. Yes, there he is.
So Yuji is, again, defensively, there's very few of these that are not defensively strong. Armour 4, 7 health. He has both the Bear Stands Alone. So the Bear Stands Alone, just a quick oversight for that, is if you do not have another friendly model that is within 3 inches of you, you gain Indomitable 1, which means you are not getting kind of outnumbered. He also has Indomitable 1. So he would have potentially 3 models fighting him.
Yep.
If he's more than 3 inches away from another friendly model, he still has full 4 dice.
Gives no shits about
Yes, and he will, again, given enough time, he'll probably club them all to death. So,
how does he differ from the last?
how does he differ? He hits stuff harder
Okay.
in general. So we look at his stats. He's got some excellent offensive specials. He's push attack 0, which is fine. It's just more for kind of zone control rather than anything else. But he has both stun and sweep attack 0. Those are both great. Depending on the opposition, say the model is immune to stun or immune to prone,
Yep.
you hit them with the other one.
And both of those do. Is it half damage? Stun attack does full damage.
Stun does full damage.
Stun does full. So you can expect stun attack 0 most of the time.
Yes, correct.
Because there's no downside to using it.
Correct. So he can apply 2 debuffs through his attacks, and he also has his key feat is Mighty Blow. So Mighty Blow is basically strong, and he already has +3. He is the man mountain, the bear incarnate. So he can hit at +3 with strong. Strong is equivalent of like another +2, I think. In terms of,
I'm nodding there. I have no idea, but I'm just nodding along because strong probably is on average a little bit,
Yeah,
+2.
I think it's basically another 2 on the dice roll, basically. That means a lot of the time he's effectively hitting at kind of the equivalent of a +5, which is bad for most people's health. So in one activation, he comes in, he hits them, he stuns them, if they're still alive. Say even he hits them at success level 1, for instance, then he rolls a 7, which is average.
Yep.
Plus 5, maxed out, so that's going to be 4 damage.
Yep.
So that's pretty beefy. And they're stunned.
Yep, so they're down die again. It seems similar to Odamu there, like if after you've fought him once, you're finding the second time you're down a die. Usually, whether it's being swept or stunned. Now, potentially, if you roll badly, you're not either of those things. But
Yes.
the way to deal with him, then, I guess, slightly different because if you charge an 8-point model into him, he's probably dying. Maybe not straight up, but he doesn't have endurance though.
He does not, no. So you can still waste his activations. And so Bear's Fury, we need a terminology for this. His bear ability.
Yes, his
His bear ability.
After our lip smacking, we show each other our bear ability as well.
It's got 4 marked wounds. It gains powerful attack 0. So, theoretically,
Yeah.
if he gets hurt badly enough, and say your opponent's already stunned, you can then hit at plus 6 damage without losing any dice. And strong.
Yes, so many 12s.
Yes, yeah, pretty much. It means like
Many
the chances of maxing out the damage roll are very high at that point every time.
And so the bear abilities there, just you mentioned there, they're always the same. A model has at least 4 marked
Correct.
wound boxes.
Yes.
Yep. Then each of these samurai, not all the models, just the samurai, is that right?
Samurai, there's some caveats. The bears both have them.
Okay.
The
Yep.
bears have them, and the samurai, the kind of fighty samurai. Now, there's a small caveat here in that the Sujinga, the ice witches, they are technically samurai.
Because
But they do not have a bear ability.
there was a little space on the card, and they thought we need to put another word in there.
In some ways, again, this model's 20 rice. He is offensively very strong, defensively very strong, but also slow and expensive.
Okay.
And neither of the models have tireless, so you can just waste their activations with Dross and hope you die slowly.
Yeah.
And
But at 20 rice, a fifth of the list, I mean, the game, whilst the faction models are good and the profiles are good, the game is not won by killing people. So,
it's not.
I can see how he could be in lists, but at the same time, I think Odamu's better. I'm out there now. I think Odamu's better.
I think that's probably the general consensus. But I suppose the other benefit is that Odamu has reach.
Yes, right.
Which also makes people reluctant because they know the Minimoto profile is strong defensively. So if you don't have reach as well, and you're potentially going to get smacked by a +5 as you charge into them,
Yeah.
+5 damage roll, even at success level 0.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, oh,
I don't want to
I'm just going to come in here, waste an activation, roll all defense, and hope for the best. The next model,
It's my favourite pal.
and this is Minimoto Ryo. He is
Too cheap. I'm just checking. He's too cheap.
everyone's favourite. Like lore-wise, I think he's one of the older samurai. He used to be one of the more badass of the samurai, and still is, to be fair. He's still one of the best samurai. But he went toe-to-toe with one of the Oni.
Okay.
I think it was Rashka the Destroyer. And obviously survived. Yes.
He can't stand up anymore, though.
No.
Yes.
So offensively, he is 3 dice opposed to the last 2 profiles, which were 4. Less armour, less attack ability.
I would love armour 3 on some of the factions
Yes.
I play, though, but yes, go on.
He can be more easily damaged. His main strengths, however, come in the form of his immovability and his bear ability. These are the 2 strongest features he has. And he also has, in my opinion, say, better key feats than, say, Yuji. So immovable is, what it does is basically what it says on the tin.
Can't be moved.
Cannot be moved.
Even I know that rule.
Cannot be moved. And it also means, very importantly, he cannot be knocked down.
Yeah.
Which is one of the things that Minimoto hate the most. Slam attacks and being made prone. Can't be moved, so that's exceptionally good. There's like, say, ranged attacks that hit Minimoto Samurai that cost 20. They fall in the bum, and then they have to spend their next activation standing up. It is a terrible use of their time. It's how they lose games. He is immune to it. He cannot be pushed, he cannot be thrown, he cannot be
change
slammed.
his facing either.
Can't change his facing.
Can't do anything like that.
And also, his bear ability is exceptionally good.
Bullshit is what it is.
Do you want to read what his Bear's Resilience is?
While this model has at least 4 marked wound box, it gains durable.
Durable. Excellent. So that is, he takes, no matter how much damage has been done to him, he takes 1 damage. And that makes, if you've been hit by an Oni with Pierce 3, plus 3 damage, and success level 5,
1 damage.
1 damage if you have Hasty Bear.
Yes.
Otherwise, you just have to take the damage, and that makes him potentially very strong. It means you've kind of got a get out of jail card. If you get down to, ideally, 4 marked wound boxes, it also means that you are then triggering that again. And then you've got a little bit more time before he dies. Because each time he's going to take damage, it's only going to be 1 at a time.
I don't think I've ever killed him.
No, he's...
Don't think so, which is odd because, again, he's slightly less of a fighty model. Even though he's a little bit worse stat-wise, he's much better for staying around where you need him to be.
He is also, as you noted prior to the recording, he's often the recipient of one of the cards that is most popular in Minimoto at present, and that is Aspect of the Bear. So Aspect of the Bear basically means he counts as 2 models. Yeah. So if he's standing there by himself on his own, he counts as 2 models, which is obviously very good for an immovable model. It also means when a model comes into him, they are going to be outnumbered.
Yes.
And for most models, that's terrible.
I remember I played a very nice Minimoto player at the UK Games Expo last year, and I remember surprisingly being outnumbered by 1 model.
Oh, yes. There's the one downside is that he counts as 2 models also for, say you have a list that's 6 models. Your list now counts as having 7 models for the purposes of pass tokens.
Really?
Yes. So there is a slight downside to it.
I think it's probably a net positive.
Yes, and that's probably fair. It also has a weird kind of side effect where you count as being effectively in base with 2 models, so you can't move around that model's base. But minutiae there, yes.
That will be played wrong by lots of people.
Great many people. Yes. We will go back briefly to his key feats. He has 2 very good key feats. Yes. And his key feats are Cleave, which is very good, and Smite. They both are active, so you have to be the active player. So Cleave is just brutal 2. It's very simple, and this combos quite well, if you've got the key for it, with his second ability, which is Smite, which gives him Slam Attack 0. So it's very good for clearing zones, for instance.
Yep, getting people out.
Or if you go into another model, say like another samurai, and you suspect that you will not be able to kill them, might be able to, if you were just to hit them, it might do 1 point of damage.
Yep.
What's more effective is to slam that model into another samurai. Any other samurai, which are now better set up, because either the model's going to be exhausted, the opponent's going to be exhausted, or having stood up, or they're going to be prone when you come into them. It's a good setup model, and again, decently well-rounded. But like all other Minimoto profiles, the speed 4 means that he's on the slower side. So if you are able to mitigate their speed in some way,
I don't think speed 4 is that slow.
It's not. I'll explain why this is actually slow, because you're like, oh no, that's the normal speed of all the other models.
Yeah.
But we'll come to that once we finish the samurais.
Okay. So moving on from my the model that gives me most problems to one that doesn't actually seem to bother me too much when I play, strangely.
Oh, strange actually. I love Niko. Niko's one of my favourites actually. Niko is just, again, excellent all-rounder. Armour 4, 4 dice, and has access to some, or at least one really good special attack. So all Minimoto models are special attacks. So I don't think there's any that have special defences. All the special attacks. Because they're simple boys and girls.
They only have one thing in mind.
The nature of Minimoto models is not to win the combat in one strike. It's not an alpha strike. They're not particularly good at that. They come in and they grind the model down over a combat or 3. So the stun attack comes in, stuns them. And that's obviously still a great setup for other models.
So he has combo attack 0, which I guess is his thing.
He has combo attack 0. And when I say that, it means the caveat here is Savage Beating is active and Yokomen is also active. On the vast majority of Minimoto key feats are active, so you have to be the active player. They can't be triggered whenever. So if you've got a durable model coming into him, it's better to do. If you're going to have to fight him with a durable model, it's better to attack him than have him attack you.
Yes.
So he was a very necessary model because if ever you came up against a durable list, he was previously the only access to combo attack that you had.
Yep.
And Minimoto, it's all well and good hitting at +5 strength.
Yeah.
If you're fighting a bunch of skeletons who are all durable, you're going to lose the game because you cannot do anything against them.
Put the models back in the box.
He's also pretty good against things like foxes who have lots of rerolls for like dodge, and he can turn off dodge. The other big thing about our man here is split attack. So he can go in and fight multiple models, remove multiple activations at a time, and also reasonably expect to give them a bit of a kicking. So you can go in and stun 2 models with 1 activation.
Yep.
Or if you decided to get spicy, Bear Supremacy.
So when you've got 4 marked wound boxes, he gains sweep attack 0, and its sweep attacks cost full damage instead of half damage.
Yeah, so you can go in to those 2 models and sweep them both.
Seems like he fits a niche to counter, or at least give Minimoto some tools to fight against some factions that they would usually struggle against otherwise.
He's just very versatile. He's very versatile, and he, quite importantly, is 18 rice, which is expensive, but less expensive. It gives you the rice to buy cards. Yeah. Where if all your models are 20, 21 rice, then you've got nothing left over. So he is very competitively priced for what he does. Then we have
a model that you should know quite a lot about next, I guess.
Yes. So this is Minimoto Koyama, the hero of the garrison.
She's the person you designed, first of all.
She is. She is. And
so
it's the most fair and well-balanced model possibly in the game.
Is it still 19?
19, yes. That's right.
Fair and balanced. That's what we're hearing. Fair and balanced.
She's excellent, and anyone who says otherwise. Now, she has been well received by the Minimoto community,
but not by anyone else. Unfortunately,
that's not true.
I'm joking.
She only has armor 3 compared to the armor 4 of.
Did they take that away from you?
Majority. No, I suggested it.
Oh, did you? Okay,
yes, thematically.
He's all for the game. He's all for making sure that we all have fun at all times.
Yes. Yep. So Koyama is slightly different. She is a slightly more supportive samurai in terms of her abilities.
Okay.
Not emotionally. I don't know how emotionally. I
need emotional support when I play against her.
She has a different weapon. Most of the Minimoto samurai utilize Tetsubo. She uses a master-crafted hand axe, lore-wise. She comes from the garrison of the Damned, and she fights lots of bakemono, which are wretched, filthy goblin people. Yes. And it's hard to fight in tunnels with big old spears and Tetsubo. And that's also why she has her torch. And that explains also why she has...
Molten balls.
No. Also that, yes, Vengeance Bakemono.
That's not Molten Balls.
Molten Balls. She does have those.
Vengeance Bakemono, but she also has Molten Balls.
So we ran through the profile. Armour 3, she is a really good fighter at 4 dice, and Movement 4, like all the other ones.
Yes.
And she also has a feature here, which we have not covered, and that was very foolish of me. She's Ki 2, and she has Resistance 2, which is very common for the vast majority of
the samurai.
The exception being the slightly traumatized Ryo, who does not have resistance.
Because he fought an Oni.
He got bonked in the head or something, maybe. I'm not sure what the rule is.
Because he can't stand up. If you can't stand up, you offer less resistance.
So that's like a very standard thing across the faction. Very, very common. So resistant against key feats. She is also fearless. This is an excellent feature. The Minimoto samurai tend to be resistant to fear, steadfast, and that means that they can, even if they have failed a fear check, they can distribute their dice. They still have the -1 if they failed it, but they can still go in and engage a model even if they had failed the fear test.
Yep.
And they can still distribute their dice
How they want to.
how they wish to.
So Koyama's got fearless. She's got aware, and I've talked to you a lot, and I think that's unnecessary. Okay? I think that is someone just.
Once you've fought in enough tunnels, you're watching your back. You're watching it all the time. You're
I
keeping your
feel
people
like
alive.
she would be walking down that tunnel, destroying everything in front of her, and not needing to look behind her.
Yeah, but there's too many tunnels. You got. That's how you stay alive. If you're not watching your back, you're gonna die. So in terms of her weapons, she has her hand axe, which is better than most axes are, like +1 damage and a brutal 1. Which she has, the difference being that hers has a pierce 1, just because it's a Minimoto one and it's of better quality. She has 2 special attacks, push attack, which is just standard across Minimoto models.
Do you use that a lot? I mean, I've played.
No.
I'm pretty sure I've not been pushed very many times.
No,
by a Minimoto model.
where it's relevant is scenario play.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And you're like, I cannot kill this
Thing.
excellent defensive model.
Single Bakemono, yep.
It could be a raider. And you're like, I'm not realistically going to be able to kill this raider in one attack. What I can do is do a push attack.
Yep.
And push out of the zone, and it will be sad, and I'll win the scenario point.
Yes.
So that's where you would use it. In general, you would rather apply the axe to face technique.
Yes.
She also has swoop attack 1.
And her bear power, did you lobby for that one?
That was mine, yes.
That was his, yes. Tireless, though, as well.
Yes. So again, playing into the theme of this veteran kind of cave fighter.
Who has everything she ever needs, ever.
She does.
Yes.
So this is where you have to kind of decide. I'm saying you can do this with Hasty Bear. Here, Hasty Bear basically is an event card, and you play it, and you can trigger a bear ability. A lot of which are pretty good.
Yes.
And you can only use it once. So you have to choose when to use it and how good it is. Are you going to make Ryu durable? Are you going to get an extra activation and keep Koyama active by playing Hasty Bear? Otherwise, you have to get down to your 3 hitboxes, and then she becomes tireless.
Her balls. We didn't talk about her balls.
Her balls, yes. So Koyama's molten balls, they're basically flashbangs.
Okay.
So pulls the pin, throws them, and they detonate. And that was one of the features for fighting. Again, the Bakemono down in the caves.
In the caves, yeah.
They don't like the light. It's a debuff.
I know it's a fire marker and a stunned marker.
Yeah, so it just throws does a wee tiny bit of damage. Doesn't actually do any there's no damage roll.
Right, okay, yeah.
So it just does a stun and 1 fire marker. So it's like a small setup piece. If you can't get into combat, it's maybe something just do a wee bit of setup. So that's her weapons. And then her key feats are alert, which gives ranged defense 1 until the end phase. So she's...
You can't shoot her either, team.
You can't shoot her. You can't shoot her. She'll just take slightly less damage than she would have otherwise. That stops models getting surprised. It's a good feature for it. Or if, for instance, you suddenly have to charge behind you, you have to get tricksy.
Yep.
You can give your model alert, and then they can charge off in a different direction if
Yes,
if the enemy have slipped past you, which often they will.
It's not specifically for her, it's any model. Target within 6.
You have to use it carefully because the Minimoto cannot really generate excess ki. There's no channel or anything like that, and they're all just kind of standard.
They're too slow to focus as well.
That's it, yes. The next key feat, again, a thematic feature of the model, is Ao's Light. Ao's Light? Ao's Light.
You wrote it, I don't know.
I didn't come up with it. That was Andy Palmer. That is her generating an area of light around her via the flame brand. So it's a metal bar, it's a torch, by another words, which holds a lesser kami inside.
Ah, okay.
So the rest of the bar she holds is not wood, it's metal, and it generates light from itself. In terms of game mechanics, it helps mitigate darkness, which is obviously a Bakemono thing. Also, as a small help against certain camouflage features, i.e. Bakemono or ninjas, it reduces their camouflage. So if they're camouflage 2, you generally have to be within the 2 inches to engage them.
And increases it to 4.
Increases it to 4. Minimoto can have push forward.
Allows
because
them to run.
if you can, but effectively it
Basically
does
allows them to run. Yeah.
under the effects of darkness, and that is very important because one of the ways that you beat Minimoto is you deny them the ability to maneuver because they are slower than every other faction. Because every other faction has access to move boosts or places or extra activations, for instance.
Sidestep, defense attack.
Yeah, and then specials and things like that. So there's a lot of movement features that are not immediately obvious that make every other faction that much faster.
Interestingly, I hadn't thought of that. Because I look at these 5 profiles and I weep, basically.
Yes. I mean, if you try and go up, and if you're fighting them with anything that's not some absolute savage Ito Psycho or an Oni or something, or something that is equally terrifying, if you try and outgrind Minimoto, you're playing badly, and you're likely going to lose.
And you deserve to lose.
You deserve to lose. You do.
Sorry, you do.
That's basically it. The only way that Minimoto win is by grinding the enemy down, because they generally have less models and less speed. If they are not reducing opposition's numbers, then they are likely going to lose.
Interesting.
Because they do not have the disposable models to run scenario plays, so they have to remove the enemies.
Being ground down is actually quite disheartening. You feel like you can't do much. There's just a couple of hits here and there that sort of wear you down, and you feel like you're losing, but almost in slow motion.
That's very much it, yeah. The slow grind of the avalanche. So the avalanche are pretty fast. The slow grind of the glacier. There you go.
Yeah, that's it. They're glacial. Just like my editing, it's glacial. So these are the 5 samurai.
Well, there's another one.
Well, who cares about him? Who is it? Him? Her? She.
He's sexist pig. Minimoto Akasuki.
18. They're getting cheaper. 18 rice.
And she is.
Never seen.
I don't know how to proceed with this. She's terrible.
She's terrible.
Yeah.
So ignore it. She doesn't really exist. Okay.
It's bad. She is really bad.
Not badly designed and not a bad model. She's a lovely model, probably.
She's a cool model, yes.
I never see her, but
there's a reason for that.
Yes. However, she must offer something. I'm looking at the card right now and I'm thinking, like, this card looks worse in many ways.
She missed the design space, unfortunately. Okay. So Minimoto Akasuki is not seen in many lists because she is subpar compared to
everything else we've just talked about.
Yes, pretty much. Models do go through redesign and they do go through erratas. So it may be at some point in the future she might be made more palatable.
Or more attractive from a competitive standpoint.
But again, that is, purely, we are talking about this in a kind of semi-competitive.
Yes. She has no free special attacks, from what I can see here.
No, she doesn't. That's one of the big problems with her.
She's got 3 die as well, so you have to almost outmaneuver someone to get that bonus die, to be able to drop that die to do those special attacks that you want to do.
Yes. So she's got combo attack 1, which she's supposed to be the premier combo attack model because unlike Niko, she always has access to combo attack.
Yeah, even when she's not the activated model. Yeah.
The problem is she has combo attack 1 and 3 dice, which means she can't really combo attack.
You're not going to get a combo attack 6, 4 and 2. No. You're going to get a 2 and a 0, which is going to do nothing.
She's got push attack 1.
Push attack 1, yeah.
For some indescribable reason, and sweep attack 1 for some unknown reason. So she's worse at it than Niko and Yuji, who have 4 dice and 0.
Yeah. If you compare this profile to Koyama's profile, which is 1 rice more, you should be able to see what Al did to the game by ruining it and just making models completely obsolete.
Again, it's supposed to be a different design space per se. The more obvious comparison would be with Niko.
Do that as well. He's ruined. It doesn't matter how. It's all Al's fault. So I guess then maybe we'll wrap up the samurai now. I think what I'll try and do. So Akasuki, look at her, enjoy her. You'll never see her, but
at the present, she's also aggressive. That's another big bad.
Aggressive is bad.
Yes.
So from a purely objective
She has split
Not
attack though.
objective.
She has split
She does
attack.
have split attack, yeah.
And that's kind of her design
But
space.
that's
It gives frenzy. If you read frenzy, you can see where she's supposed to, what she's supposed to do.
we're gonna. This video was supposed to be half an hour total, and we've spent an hour on the samurai. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna gloss over the negative aspects of Akasuki, and I'm just gonna quickly I was about to say objective, from a purely subjective point of view.
Yes.
Could you place these in order of best to worst?
That's rough because
Just do it.
Just do it.
I'm not asking you to. I'm not asking.
I would say my Yuji is like B tier,
B tier.
A tier.
Odamu's A
S
tier.
tier.
S tier is Ryu.
Niko, I like him competitively for the cost, and she's S tier as well.
Because you made her.
Because I made her.
She's
yes.
overtuned.
Overtuned BS.
Wonderful. So I will create some kind of nice tier list thing that comes up there, and it'll
And then Akasuki would be like
Akasuki's
back
not on.
here.
Akasuki's not there, unfortunately.
No.
She's somewhere else.
She's,
She's compared to the Ashigaru because she's so bad.
That's not fair on the Ashigaru.
Wonderful. That wraps up the samurai, I guess, portion of this, and we'll move slowly but comprehensively on to the next sub-faction, which is...
No, we have to do that again. Sub-factions, not sub-faction.
Comprehensively move on to Ashigaru.
Less comprehensively.
Who knows? It's okay. Do you want... I'm going to stop it, and then we'll turn this off, and we can have a... I think it's going quite well.
Yeah, I quite like it. I've got the flow on.
I feel like we're doing okay. What do you think? Let us know in the comments.